Alright, hello again. This is Jeff Scott, your instructor for the online version of 152, 157 Website Development, XHTML, CSS for the fall 2015 semester at Blackhawk Technical College. One thing I have to be leery of is when I'm doing these lectures, as mentioned to you, the idea is to go over the slides first and then go do some demo work. Well, I started on the slides and then immediately started to do a demo. So I'm going to just go through the slides now and then go back to my demo after that. So again, this chapter is entitled Forms, and it's all about forms. How to create them, what the different elements mean, how to style them with CSS, and the relationship forms have with server-side processing, not client-side, but server-side. Again, there's all sorts of types of forms. They're all over the place. There's all sorts of kinds, etc. And they do all sorts of things. So a form is a container. This is a form right here. And actually, probably the shipping address entry is not part of it, but everything else that you see in here is part of the form. So it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 fields in it. All right. Of those 8 fields, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 fields are of type text. They're text boxes. This field is either called an option button, a select, or a drop-down list, depending on your point of view. This looks like it's a combination of 2 different text boxes. All right, and this is another drop-down. These are both buttons. These are special buttons. This one is of type submit. Normally when you click that, you've got some kind of action that you associate with a form, and that's the action that takes place. This, clear all, takes whatever you put in here and it resets it back to its default values. So the form, as it says, that's your page interface, and you use a form in conjunction with server-side processing. PHP, ASP.NET, Java server pages, Ruby on Rails, etc. There's a lot of ways that these can be done. As it says here, server-side processing works with a form, with form data, sends email, writes text to a file, updates a database. There's all sorts of different things. But we're talking about there, once you click a submit button, trying to do something on the server side. Here's some of the different form elements that you can have. I'm not going to read this. It's kind of a busy slide. Here's the simple form, example form right here. In fact, let's grab this. Looks like we can copy that. Come into here. I'm going to start up something new. I'm just going to paste it in. Still is kind of ugly. I don't want those VTs there. I'm not sure exactly what that's doing even. But form, email, input type, yeah, boom, boom, break. Input type equals submit. Let's put a couple blank spaces in here. All right, and there's the end of our form. Now I'm going to move everything over, tab it all over one time, and I'm going to try to do this very quickly. And that's what happens when I try to do things very quickly. I start making mistakes. Now, I'm not putting everything in here. There's no meta tags, etc. I'm just keeping it real simple. And I'm going to call this form1.html. All right, so that's it. Now notice if I go in and I run it. Okay, email, and I've got to submit. I don't know why I've got that there, so I'm going to check that. Input type equals submit. Oh, it's because of this right there. All right, so type equals submit. I'm going to put in here value equals submit. And over here, type equal reset. I'm going to put in here value, which is what's on the button. Value equal clear. And there you see it. Not real much to it, but just so you see that's a simple example of a form. Again, I could put a couple more line breaks in here, which would make it look a little bit nicer. And there you go. All right. Now, in this case, unlike the example I showed you before, we're not using a label element. They're just putting text in there and immediately putting in a text box after it, type equal text. Its name and its ID, which are usually the same, are both email. 3 line breaks, a submit button, and its value is submit, 2 blank spaces, a reset button, and its value is clear. So you can see when you look through this that a form must be put within form tags. Okay? So they had the join our newsletter. I didn't put that in there, but you get the idea. They have sign me up. Well, that sign me up and reset, that you would have to put that in there for your value. It doesn't automatically just say that. In fact, if you notice in here, if I were to come in here and totally leave the value off, so I'm going to, where it's got value equals submit, I'm going to get rid of it. I think it says like submit query then. And for reset, I might say reset. I don't know. So I'm going to leave it like that and run it again. It does say submit and reset. Okay. All right. I sit corrected. All right, let's just move on. So typically with a form, you put action equals. All right, and that's normally a server-side script that you want to run when you click the submit button. The method can be post or it can be get. And guess what? You've already seen one of these. If you didn't set anything, and I didn't, it defaults to get. And if you remember, I showed you all that information, how it was shown in that query string at the top of your address bar. That's what a get does. You use name and ID to identify the form. Here's another example. When you say input in here, you can say type equal text. Notice we can give it a name attribute, an ID attribute, a size, a max length, and a value. Let's look at all of these. So let's say for this example right here, in fact, let's look at these. Oops. I'm just going to grab these right here, just so you can see them. All right. I'm going to throw them down here, so don't worry about it. It'll look funny for a second. So type equal text. We got the name. So we've done that one. We've got the name equal, so we've done that one. We've got the ID, so we've done that one. Size. You can be as anal about this stuff as you want to. So in other words, notice I like to sometimes do it like this, which means I write more code, but everything is on its own line, so it makes it easier to see. I can say size equal 50. That's not how many characters I can put in it. That's literally how big the box will be. So that's that one. Max length. That's how many characters I can put in it. So if it's an email, I can say, for example, max length equal 50. All right. And then value. Well, you've already saw that before. All right. So we can put in here a value if we want to. You don't normally put a value into text boxes. You put what's called a placeholder. Enter email address here. All right. So you saw what it looked like before, like this, and now it's bigger. Enter email address here. Well, this is all that garbage I left at the bottom. I forgot to remove it. The system is trying to render that as HTML. It doesn't really know how. So, all right. So now there it is. All right. You can put not a text box, but a text area in. So let's look at that. So we've already got our text box. So let's put in a text area here. All right, so we've got those 3 line breaks. We'll leave those there, and we're going to just put 2 of them here. Whoopsie. All right, so now I'm going to come down here, and I'm going to say, we'll say comments. All right, input, no, not an input, this is called a text area. All right, and again, I can come in, I believe at least, and put in name equal comments, ID equals comments. Now, I don't put a size in here. Instead, I put how many rows I want. You'll see what I mean in a second. So I'm going to say rows equal 15, and the number of columns. It's cols equal, and I'm going to put in here 50. All right, no max length. We can put a placeholder in here. And that is going to be equal to enter your comments here. So I can end my text box or my text area and then literally just put it here. All right. Now let's go and take a look at what we've got. Now I haven't refreshed the form. So there it is. Comments. Okay. That's a text box. It's single line. That's a text area. It's multi-line. That is going down. That's 15 rows. Going across, that's 50 columns. All right. Submit button we've already talked about. Notice when it's clicked, whatever you put in there for the action on your form tag, that's what's going to end up happening. All right. Reset we've talked about already. Here's that another practice that they've got, this hands-on practice. Very simple, first name, last name, email, and comments. So that example that they have there that goes through that is looks like it's hands-on practice 9.2 on page 393. When you've got a password, so when you say type equal password instead of type equal text, it shows either as asterisks or as black dots. You don't see the password. Checkboxes are set up so you can have 0, in this case 0, 1, 2, or all 3 can be checked. If you want one checked by default, you just say checked. Radio buttons, they're off the old radio button on the old AM car radios. In other words, only one of these can be selected. These are what are known as mutually exclusive choices, so you can only choose one here. You can have a hidden form data. Be very leery of form data that's hidden because it doesn't display on the web page. But if you right mouse click on the form or on the web page and you choose view source, you can see hidden data. Select list, all right, for drop downs, we've already looked a little bit at this and the options that go inside of it, so we've looked at this stuff. If you don't want your button to be a standard button, you can make it an image button, all right, or you can make it a regular button. Now, a couple things regarding accessibility. All right, so that moves us all the way up to page 398. Notice, remember I used that label and I had that 4 equals. Why? Because again, that's the idea, is that can be used with that 4 equals tag on a label with people who, for example, who are impaired sight-wise. All right? Field set element. Let's quickly put in a field set and a legend so you can see these. All right, so under the form here, I'm going to put in this. Oops. Field set, and I'll have legend equal simple form example. Now end my legend. And then on the very bottom of the form here, right before I get to the form tag, I'm going to end my field set. All right, save it. Now when I just look at it here, it doesn't look any different, but notice when I refresh. Put a box around the whole thing. Didn't like my legend. So I'm doing something wrong with the legend. It's been a while since I've looked at some of this stuff, so let's see. I goofed up on the legend, so let's fix that. Not legend equal. It's just, that's my beginning legend should go there. And then simple form example like that. All right, so let's look at that again. And there is the legend. I can make as many of these as I want. I can come in, just so you see this. All right, I'm just going to show you this right now, but it's something we're going to get to later. But if I come up in here in my head section, and I put a style tag in, and my ending style tag, and I say I want that field set, and I want it to have a width of 50%. All right, let's see how different it's going to look right now. All right, see what I just did? It defaulted to 100% of the screen length. That looks a little more acceptable, a little nicer. All right, in fact, I probably wouldn't even need that much. I probably could try it, you know, and a lot of this is tweaking and playing around with it. I could try 45% and see how that looked. All right, maybe even 40%. I'll just leave it at that, just so you can see. Again, this is a constant tweaking that takes place here. So I showed you the label, I showed you the field set, I showed you the legend. How about the tab index and the access key? Well, what I can do is I can say, here, this is what I'd want anyway, so I could come in here if I wanted to and say tab index equals 1. And here, tab index equals 2. And then for access key equals, what is it? Let's try E. All right, you say, well, nothing much has happened. It's going to look exactly the same. It's not going to look any different. All right, but when I come here and I tab, I should immediately go into here. Let's see if that works, and it does. Control or Shift tab, and I go backwards. All right, if I'm over here and I hold down on my Alt key and I tap the letter E, well, I thought that would have. How about let's try Control E. No, doesn't like either one of those. All right, but that's what the access key is supposed to do. So there's another practice on this. And again, as the author oftentimes does in here, talks about a few topics and then does a practice with you. So we could have looked at this, I guess. So there's the label with the for equal, as I mentioned. Here it is where you're not using the for equal. That's considered old practice. That's considered the way it should be done now. Field set, I guess I could have looked on here and just shown you the examples here. Tab index, again, it modifies the default tab order. By default, what that says is it's going to put stuff in there. All right, it's going to put stuff in there in the tab order will be the order in which you put stuff on the screen. On Windows, use the Control and the Hotkey to move the cursor. All right. Well, email access key equals E. I just wanted to see, I'd like to show you, I'm going to show you this stuff, I'd like to show you it correctly. Let's go down to here and let's say here, access key equals T. All right, so come back to this, fresh, right here. So jscott at blackhawk.edu. You know now I can tab and get right there. But what I want to try to do is do a Control T. See, I thought that would move me there. All right, but it didn't. The bad thing is when you're using access keys, is some of them are already programmed. So I don't typically use access keys. The tab index typically suffices as far as I'm concerned. All right, so I want to come in here where we've got this access key and just remove both of them. Because I think rather than helping you, I'm just hurting you in your understanding of this. All right? So using CSS to style a form. Let's just grab everything that the, let's grab everything that the author put in here, right there. All right, and I'm going to just grab all of that, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to that first form that I created for you, right here, a while back. All right, and I'm going to come up, we'll first put it in here, and we'll put it in the head section, we'll put it in between style tags. And once we get it to work, we'll pull it out and put it into its own file. All right, so there's form. We've got a background color we're setting. And I'm not sure what that VT is. It's because I'm copying it out of the book. There's a font family. All right, there's how we're going to set up our labels. And the key thing with labels, oops, that's not the one I want to change. That is we're saying the width is 100 pixels. So now our labels should all line up. You're going to see that this is going to look much, much nicer when we get done with this in just a minute. So what, float left, width 100. Again, some people when they do this, they like to take everything and put it all on its own line like that. All right, so after every semicolon, they put what follows on its own line. I'm going to do that right here just so we can see what goes with what. All right, on the example that I gave you, I don't have a text area. So that's a moot point what they show here. And I did not call the button, I did not give the submit button the name, a class of, or an ID of my submit, but I'll do that right now. So type equals that, values equals that. ID equals my submit. Back up here. All right, and I think that was the caseness and the like. Probably would work even without it, but I think that's all right. So now, I don't know if you remember the way it looked before, but if I look at it now, it looks much nicer. All right. Now you'll notice that that says the 1 and the 2 are on their own lines, and the reason for that, the reason that those 1 and 2s, the reason for that is I only made it 100. If I go back and make that about 100 and whatever, 150 or even 125, that should fix that. Now I can go back in here and where I've got these 2 line breaks, I should be able to get rid of both of them. And again, this is what you end up doing a lot as a web designer, is you do a lot of tweaking. All right, so I'm going to come back up here where we had this, and we had the label of being 100, I'm going to make it 125. All right, so we made a left margin of 110 for our submit. I'm wondering what happened to our other button. I didn't see it on there. Equals my submit. Type equals submit. I'm still not sure what happened to it, but let's take a look here now. All right. Again, it's not perfect, and I will need to have another right here, as you can see. I will need to, after my city, okay, I will need to have a BR tag. So it's not perfect, but it sure looks a heck of a lot more acceptable, for lack of better words, than what we saw before. All right, this I would have to come back here and do some tweaking of that also. So let's go that right after our city. Goof that up. Now I've got this. Oh boy. So got that, end that, bring it back up again. Okay. So somewhere in here is that file. Form. I think we just called it form. There it is. Okay. All right, so what did we say? I think it was right before city or right after city. I don't remember. So, there's the city. Let's put a BR tag in here. And if it's in the wrong place, we can always move it. It's no big thing. All right, and now this says margin left. Okay. And you know what we'll do? We'll just call this, instead of submit, we'll have these buttons go right underneath one another. So we'll call these buttons. Oops. Right here, we'll call those buttons. And I'm going to come down here, so they'll be right, should be hopefully right underneath one another. Type equals submit, ID equals buttons. We will put a line break in here. And we'll say the same thing here. ID equals buttons. All right, hopefully I made this good enough so we won't have to tweak with it anymore. There you go. All right. So notice what we've done here. With just a little bit of CSS, it's a much more professional looking form. Maybe we want to come in and also, you know, just, and I'll leave it at this, but for our labels, I'm going to watch what I'm doing here, so I'm going to put in here a font weight bold. Now I have to watch it because now it may be wider than the 125 pixels I set across for it, but it's not. There you go. All right. So I'm kind of interspersing lecture and lab in here, which isn't what I really wanted to do, but just so you can see it. Okay? All right, so I just showed you how to add some CSS to style a form. And I should show you this too. Okay? Again, what I should be doing is grabbing all of that stuff, cutting it, starting a new file, pasting it back in. I don't want the style tags. All right, and everywhere I've got this. That should fix that. So there's our styling, and we'll call this, we'll save this as form.css. Alright, come back to our form file, and now we need to come in and of course add a link tag. Rel equals style sheet. Href equals form.css. If we did this right, when we come back over here and I refresh, it should look exactly the same. And it does. Okay? All right, so we added some CSS. Now let's talk some server-side processing. All right? The web browser requests web pages and their stuff from a web server, which finds the files and sends them back again. All right? So what I'm going to show you is not the way it's going to typically be done, but I just want to show you this. So what I'm going to show you in here right now is not the way you would typically do this. But I don't really want to get into server-side processing with you right now. So I'm going to say here, action equals thanks.html. All right. Method equals get. All right. Now, this isn't going to do diddly until I make a simple little file here that's called thanks.html. So I'm going to, again, just quickly fudge up a little document here. Again, you wouldn't typically make this another HTML file, okay? I think this is going to work. I have never even tried doing this before, but I see no reason why it wouldn't. Let's see. Thanks for filling out our form. All right, so there's thanks.html. And typically you don't go from one HTML page to another, but I'm going to try this anyway. So let's run. Let's bring this up in Chrome. I want to do it all over again, so here we go. See that it's got my values all in there, which is good. It makes it really nice when you're testing. PO. Not sure why it's wrong with the zip code. I'll just leave the zip code in there the way it is. So, and I can always peruse my way down like this. Now I'm going to click continue. Thanks. Thanks for filling out the form. So it moved me to another page. I'm now on thanks.html. And it remembered my first and last name, Black Hawk Technical College, the address, the city, the state, the zip, the post office, all the other goodies. They're all in there. All right? We don't do much work with server-side processing in the first year of the program, but the second year of the program is on server-side processing. Okay? So again, you request something from a web server. This is your browser. That's a web server. That could be a gigantic computer someplace. It sends back your request as a response in HTML so that the browser can read it. You can do that in PHP, ASP or ASP.NET, CFM for Cold Fusion, JSP for Java server page, and again, it's ASPX for ASP.NET. Okay? Uses direct execution. The script is run either by the web server itself or by something associated with the web server. So, the web page invokes client-side processing via a form or a hyperlink. So in our case, it was a form. We click the submit button. All right? The web server executes the script for us, and it sends information back, whatever we've requested, or it tries to. It can do things like searching a database, allowing you to place an order in an online store, and some of this other stuff they mention here. If you don't want to say form equals, or I'm sorry, action method equals post, if you don't want to say method equals get, like we have in here, you can say method equals post. All right, those are the two. So, if we run this again, we have to fill out our information again. But notice now when we enter that information this time, when I click continue, look what happens in here. It still goes to HTML, but it doesn't, the thanks.html, but it doesn't show anything. When you do a method equals get, what the system does is it adds everything that you've been working with to that query string. When you do a post, it hides it in what's called the HTTP header. All right, there's ways you can do free server-side processing, and these are some of the other ones that are the most popular. In this program, we don't do Java server pages. We don't do Cold Fusion. We do PHP. We don't do Ruby on Rails. We do Microsoft.NET, and we do active server pages. All right? So the last thing that's in here that they talk about in the chapter are some things that are specific to HTML5. So I'd like to show you those. This is section 9.9 that starts on page 408. And it goes pretty much through the rest of the chapter, the next 7 or 8 pages. All right? So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to make a few changes to this form. You saw what it looked like. All right? There's all that good stuff, the country and all the other goodies. All right, boom, 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 boom. I'm going to add the new stuff at the bottom just so that you can see it. All right, so I'm going to come down here and I'm going to put an input, but I'm going to put in here type equals email. All right, and I'm going to say name equals email, ID equals email, placeholder equals enter email address here. All right, so that's that. And what I should have put in there for it also is a label. Label for equals email. And we'll put email address. All right. Now, I've just added a new field, so that's the only thing that should really look different in here from what we saw before. So if I refresh, there's the email address. But I want you to see this. If I try to click continue now, it still says thanks. But I'm going to come in here and I'm going to type in something that's wrong. It says please put an @ sign in there. It's recognizing that as being an invalid email. All right. So I've got zip code and country here. I want to see if I still have blank spaces after state and after zip code. There's that. I don't think I need either of these anymore, so let's check. Again, I'll just keep playing with this and tweaking it. Now I need one. So I need one after zip code. And it's getting better. All right. This by no means is this perfect. All right, what I like to do also in here is to come in here and, okay, there's my name. There's the company. There's the address 1. There's the address 2. The city. So I'm just putting a little white space in here, and I'm doing that so you can see what's going on, so it's easier for you to kind of, hopefully at least, comprehend what's going on in here. All right, a little white space can go a long way when you're developing. There's the email. There's our buttons. Okay. All right. So that was that. I want to just mention a couple more of these things that they have in here. So I'm just going to add a couple. They're going to look just like this until I change them. So I've got an email address. I'm going to put in here, this is kind of silly, favorite URL. And I'm going to make this type URL. All right. So for equals URL, the type equals URL, the name is equal to URL, this is URL, and this will be enter favorite URL here. I know that's kind of silly, but I just want you to see this. So we'll put in here phone number. We'll call this of type, I think it's type TEL, T-E-L, I believe, yep. All right, and so that's the label for, that'll be phone. This here, the type is TEL. This is phone. This is phone. And this will say enter phone number here. All right, now if I bring this back up again, you're going to see I've added a couple more things in here. All right, so there's the email, there's the favorite URL, and there's the phone number. All right, you want more on that, you can read on 408, 409, and 410. All right, they show you how you can put a search field in here, how you can put a data list in here, and let's see, I'm trying to think. The state, actually the country might have helped for a data list. So I don't know if this will work or not. Again, I'm trying some stuff with you guys that I haven't really tried much before, just to see if it'll work for you and for myself. So we've got here this select, but I'm going to change this from select, I'm going to change this to data list. Data list, this is something that's in HTML5. So it says data list ID equals country. And that right here where it says 4 equals, that should have said country. All right. Now, is anything going to change? Well, I have to, at the bottom, change that from an ending select to country. Oops, I'm sorry, it's to data list. Again, I think this will work, but we'll find out. And if it doesn't, okay. All right, country. Now notice if I come in here and type in UN, didn't like it. What I was hoping that would do would be to show me a list. Oh, I've got to change it. Okay. This isn't a really good example to use for this, so I'm going to get rid of it. The idea was if I typed in UN, it would show me United States, United Arab Emirate, etc. It would just show me stuff with that. I don't like the way this is looking, so I'm just going to get rid of that, make it back to a select. I'm going to make this one back to a select, and I can keep the ID on there. That'll be fine. Should fix it back to the way that it was before. Please enter a country. Okay. All right. You can put sliders on there, and they show you that in the book. All right. Choose a number. There's calendars that you can use in here. Again, I'm not going to go over all of this just because of the fact, well, let's go back to our PowerPoints and see if they go through some of these. All right. So here is an email, and again, for email, if you put something invalid, it'll say, please enter an email address or something along those lines. For URL, it's looking for the http://www.google.com. So it'll say, please enter a URL. Telephone numbers, the one with this one, just so you know, is the TEL. It's not, right now, it's accepted, but I don't think it's enforced. So in other words, if I come in here and I put in non-numeric values, it'll still take them. All right, the search box. Here's that data list. That's what I wanted to show you. This is from what's in your book on page, the bottom of page 410. So for favorite color, it shows you this. And if I were to type, the idea with a data list is if I type a B in here, it should just show me blue and black because those are things that start with B. Slider control, you can set up a slider. So for instance, maybe I'm writing a website where I'm bidding to create websites for people, and I say, choose the amount you want to pay. And I could have on the low end maybe $10,000 and on the high end $100,000, something like that. You can have spinner controls. You've seen these before. If you've ever tried to print anything out, it's got a little arrow here that if you click the up, that'll go from 3 to 4. If you click the down, that'll go from 3 to 2. You can set your own minimums and maximums. A calendar control will put in literally a calendar. So if I were to choose right here, if it's December 21st, 2012, if I choose that date, then the idea is that'll go in here. All right. So finally, they had one last practice in here. Practice, hands-on practice 9-6 on pages 415, 416, and 417. All right, not going to go over any more of that. The last thing I'd like to mention is not in the summary here, but on the very last paragraph that's on page 417. Because if you don't look at it, you'll just peruse right by it and not even notice that it was there. So I'm going to go here to page 417. And on the bottom of that page, right there, it says use HTML form elements with the concept of progressive enhancement in mind. So what they're saying with that is you want to make your thing simple, all right? But you want to be able to use all of the elements, right? Even all this new cool stuff, this HTML5 stuff. So if you have older browsers, what they'll do is instead of showing things they don't understand, they'll just display it as a text box. This is progressive enhancement in action. Everyone sees a usable form, and visitors who are using modern browsers will benefit from the modern thing, and ideally, those who are not using a modern browser, they'll understand why they should be using a modern browser. All right, so I'm going to come back, and first I'm going to go over the homework for the prime properties for Chapter 9, and then I'm going to try to add a contact form to the Donald J. Trump website.